Good morning. My name is Sam Hutchins, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about my story. Growing up in our family, God was not really the central animating, part of our family life growing up. There was definitely love in our family, but there was also strife. And so for me, what that meant was kind of looking for different avenues of escape. And if you kind of asked me growing up, I was trying to maybe find my own way. Well, what that looked like was just kind of following what a lot of everybody else was doing. Growing up, I had a lot of doubts about God, and that was just kind of a difficult part of my life. I had, some peripheral interest and involvement in different church-related things, but was really kind of on the outside. And me being on the outside and not kind of diving in, not learning more about God, I kind of would probably say it was a lot of doubts, but it was a lot of just, selfishness as well, and kind of wrestling through some of the dynamics with my family growing up. I had familiarity with a missions organization, and so in kind of the early part of my college years, I decided to apply to work with Sun Servants for a summer, and I really didn't know what I was getting into, and on their part, they didn't know what they were getting into with me, and thankfully they were really gracious and loving towards me in a season of of doubting, of selfishness and different things like that. And so I spent the summer with them, and it was really beautiful of being involved with a Christian community. And God before that was really impersonal to me, which when God is impersonal, he's also more ignorable. And throughout the summer, God just became much more personal. We read through the book of John, and it really fitting that we kind of ended the summer culminating when Jesus is talking to Thomas, and Jesus says to Thomas, "Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed." And so really throughout the summer, that was kind of, that really just struck me. It was life-giving and convicting of the sense of, there's things maybe I haven't seen. I do have doubts, and yet it is ultimately good to see Jesus and to believe in him. And so I have, thinking of that time of really kind of coming to faith, there's a quote from Tom Skinner, the late evangelist, that really just puts into words better than I can. This is what he says about his own testimony. "I spent a long time trying to come to grips with my doubts, when suddenly I realized I had better come to grips with what I believe. I've since moved from the agony of questions that I cannot answer to the reality of answers that I cannot escape." I love that line. The agony of questions that I cannot answer to the reality of answers that I cannot escape. And it's a wonderful relief. And ultimately, for me, for us as Christians, our ultimate answer is the person and work of Jesus. Our relief ultimately is the person and work of Jesus. And not that there aren't, good answers to different kinds of questions, but ultimately it is him. And over that summer, that's really what I discovered was Jesus, the personal God who loves and cares for me and knows me. And so that was kind of, that process really began in the first part of college. And there's been, a lot of life that has happened since that point. I've gone through moving a lot, soon after I became a believer, my parents divorced, and that was really unsettling for our family. And so ultimately in all of those things, there's a quote from Spurgeon that says, I have a great need for Christ, and I have a great Christ for my need. And so in all of those things, really kind of finding that to be the case. All of this kind of leads to baptism today. And so, there's been a couple points in, the past couple years where I've been more and more convicted in the sense of the need for baptism as my response to what God has done. And so, in being a part of this church, of moving here in the past year and a half, and being more and more involved, I've just seen more and more my response to be baptized as something that I need to do, and joyfully get to do in front of the congregation and a group of believers. And so, excited to be here and to ultimately to know Jesus.